Claire Wasserman here, coach, author, and host of Ladies Get Paid. Today, you're going to hear from Liza Wyles. She spent years in entertainment, running departments, building TV shows, managing multi-million-dollar budgets, and then she was laid off from one of the largest media companies in the world. And then her husband was diagnosed with an aggressive brain cancer. What Liza shares is her relationship to money, her identity, guilt, and what it finally took for her to stop building other people's empires and start showing up for her own. This episode is something new that I'm trying. Every so often, in between my interviews and coaching sessions, I'm going to share a first person story from a woman who's willing to tell the truth about her life and career. No expert credentials required, no tidy ending necessary. You can even be anonymous, because I think we have just as much, honestly more, to learn from each other than from any expert or celebrity, because there's just so much extraordinary in our everyday lives. Whenever I share something vulnerable on Substack, I get the same email. I thought I was the only one. So this series is my answer to that. Now, if you have a story you want to share, I'd love to hear it. The link is in the show notes below. Now, here's Liza.
I have run departments. I have managed budgets in the millions. I've built teams and TV shows from the ground up to great reviews and revenue. I spent years building other dreamers' empires. And then in early 2023, my position was eliminated. I was the highest paid person in my department at one of the largest media companies in the world. I'd wanted to be a part of what they were building, something genuinely new as the business of streaming entertainment was taking shape. And so I'd accepted the role for a salary that was less than I was worth to do it. I told myself the opportunity made up the difference. And I was proud of what I created there, proud of how I supported my staff, how I led my staff, proud that I was contributing to our two-income household, which was a necessity when raising a family in New York City. But my worth was not being met by the salary. And when the layoff came, it came in my own meeting, a recurring check-in I had set up with my supervisor. So, adding insult to injury. Because if you're going to fire someone, maybe send the meeting appointment yourself. The first thing I felt was a punch to the gut, but then relief came. I would no longer feel resentful about accepting less than my value. I never went back to corporate, and now I never want to. For the last 3 years, I've been consulting as a copywriter, a brand strategist, a script doctor, a documentary producer, a writing coach, and I trained as an intimacy coordinator starting in 2024. That work, being on set, facilitating safety so performers are free to be vulnerable, spreading trust and modeling respect, is the most joyful I've been in a job in years. It's the most me I've felt in a job in years. And yet it still doesn't pay what I'm worth. Right now, I agree to work for a range of budgets because at this early point in my intimacy career, it's more important to get the days on set. When I say yes to a number I know is too low, my shoulders tighten. My body's trying to protect me, I think. I draft a contract and I make it very clear what the scope of my work is. I don't buy anything extra for my kit. I protect my boundaries where I can, even when I can't protect the number. I'm playing small on purpose to ensure I get the gig, even if it's low paying, instead of taking a chance, saying no to a reduction in pay to give space to a potentially better paying job. Because it actually does not occur to me to ask for more money. If I ask, I'm giving them a reason to say no to me. Throughout my TV and film career, I've given more of myself than I've been compensated for in most jobs, be it time, the level of expertise I have to inform the work, or absorbing tasks outside my role. I think it has to do with the scarcity mindset of, wow, these jobs are really going away. The industry of entertainment is in absolute tumult. The market is flooded with unemployed, qualified, experienced creatives, just like me. The fact that they're even willing to hire someone like me, that's felt like enough. But there's the scarcity mindset, and there's also the scarcity Reality. In August 2024, my husband was diagnosed with glioblastoma, an aggressive brain cancer. Standard of care following brain surgery to remove the malignant tumor includes 6 weeks of daily radiation along with 6 weeks of daily chemo. Then a 12-month regimen of chemo. Once every month, the chemo pills were delivered. 5 days a month, blood work at home, scans every 6 weeks. He finished his year of chemo this past December. He's 20 years younger than the average patient with this cancer. He's never smoked, super healthy guy, and he works full time from home in the next room through all of it. What does watching him do that do to me? It makes me feel guilty that I don't bring in the full income I used to. Yes, I work all the time. I take care of every domestic item, the kids, the home, all of it. I hustle for work, networking, reaching out, volunteering, and I get actual paid work occasionally. But I watch him and I know that his working days won't last forever. You cannot cure this cancer, you can only treat it. He will not get better. He will only get worse. It's just a matter of how long the present season will last. He enjoys his work. He really defines himself by it. And if it makes him feel purposeful to do the work, then that is the right thing for him to do. Throughout his cancer journey, though, I've been underemployed. So I carry that guilt quietly. We aren't in debt, but we are on a forever payment plan to the hospital. I pay very little every month to them. I don't even know when my end date is, some year. I've just been punting hospital bills down the line. Fun aside, when you owe money to a medical institution, they will robocall you to remind you, and the message is to please call them so that you can pay your bill. And I find that hilarious, as if I will proactively seek them out to give them my money. If you're going to call me, ask me for the money right then and there. Kind of a strange process. But his illness has forced me to stop pretending that anyone but myself can make the life I want for myself. Knowing that I don't want to go back to a corporate role was the first step in reclaiming my identity as an artist, the one that was born in childhood when I saw Star Wars for the first time and knew I wanted to write movies. But it took me decades until my husband's diagnosis to fully step away from the world of working for other people. I stopped applying to jobs to build others' empires. If I'm going to get rejected, let it be in new ways. No more loading my cover letter with scannable keywords. Now I'm drafting artist statements and applying for writing residencies. I've decided instead of a job, I'll focus on creating my own work and hustle to get it subsidized. The rejections are still coming, but at least I'm learning from the process. If I could talk to the 21-year-old who just won that filmmaking grant to make her senior thesis film in college, I would tell her that she will be able to use all her filmmaking skills, but not exactly how she imagined it. I would tell her that she'll show up in every room afraid she's not good enough. So just accept that and do it anyway. Fear will never steer her in the right direction. I write every day. I've worked on a bunch of films, and there's potential for more intimacy work on the horizon. I have applications in for residencies that will provide a stipend while I work on the projects that were relegated to the margins of my life for too long. I want other women in midlife who want something different from their work after all these years to feel safe sharing their own dreams, to find community where they are validated for wanting to imagine a different iteration of life and execute on it with the only permission they need is from themselves. In this current season I'm in of caregiving and forging a new branch of creative film work through intimacy coordination, my identity is clear. I'm not a job title. I'm a multi-dimensional creative woman, proud to show my two children what it looks like when you face uninvited struggles and decide you'll make something out of it for yourself.
Claire here again. I want to leave you with something Liza said that I just haven't been able to stop thinking about. She said, His illness forced me to stop pretending that anyone but myself can make the life I want for myself. That's the thing about uninvited crises. Sometimes they do the clarifying work that years of trying couldn't. Liza is still in it. The hospital bills, the caregiving, the hustle, the uncertainty, but she's building anyway. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And head on over to Substack, the link is in the show notes below, to read Liza's story in her own words. It just hits differently on the page. And if you want your story to be told, you can be anonymous. Just click the link in the show notes below. Now, go get paid.